Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you part 11 of What If Naruto Was a Hope of the Uchiha clan. Remember to get this one to 100 likes as usual. Share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, stay in tune for a brand new episode coming from Anime King 2, which I do hope that you guys enjoy. And also guys, I'm going to be posting a brand new episode on Making 3. And yes, you heard that correctly. I indeed have 3 channels, and making 2 and making 3, which I post what you fun every single day for you guys to enjoy. Remember, if you're new, to go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Making family. And thank you for all of your help and support. And yeah, without further ado, would you say begin this new episode? Start the intro. So, the last time we left off, Naruto sat down with the Senjus, as he told him the story of why he became the King Slayer. We then started off as Yamamoto, a man that wanted to overthrow his father, had returned back to the clan, as he was given permission to return because of Naruto. Because of Naruto awakening the Sharingan as well as Madara. The man didn't like them. Naruto could see that clearly, as Tajima told him clearly that he would not stand for his insubordination, and if he raised his voice once again, he would make sure that he leave immediately. As Yamamoto took it with stride, though he did not complain or anything, but something was wrong because he was too calm. Naruto made his way to visit Kurama when he heard footsteps, as he thought some of the children were sneaking out, so he made his way to find them and told him to go back inside. After all, he didn't want to be caught either, but what he saw frightened him. Women and children, they were all tied up. Yamamoto was there preaching to his followers, as they were ready to kill them, as Naruto jumped out to ask them what they were going to do. What the hell is going on? But Yamamoto simply told him, seeing that he was going to kill Naruto anyway. The grief and pain of killing their loved one, their niece and nephew, sisters, that will allow them to awaken the Sharingan, and with that they could control the entire world. All of them, the might, the power that they would be possessing. As Naruto told him that he would stop them, as they took him on, Yamamoto was shocked as he watched as adults, fully grown adults that had been trained, could not strike down the boy as the boy was fast. His speed, and not to mention how he was small, it made him unable to be attacked. Chaos erupted as fire started to bring down, as the bodies of the women and children, they were being slaughtered around Naruto, and he couldn't get to them because he was surrounded, but he went crazy as he slaughtered several of the men. As Naruto started to get burned, but Yamamoto surprised Naruto's skin. It was not chopping off despite the intense heat. His skin became red, and his eyes spun so wildly, he looked like the devil himself as he stood there with his 3-toed Sharingan looking at Yamamoto. The man stepped back in fear as he asked Naruto what he was, as Naruto sliced him directly in half. And Naruto then realized that all the people that he tried to save were now dead, as he sat down right in the center. That is how Tajima and the others came to find him. Tsunade and Hoshirama were shocked, as Tsunade couldn't believe it. He killed his family to save his family. Hoshirama then told Naruto that he will help him, as he gave Naruto his trust. Time skip after that, as Naruto told Minato what was going to happen. She was hurt, immensely so, as she knew how much grief he was going through as well, to be doing this. She didn't blame him, although she was angry that she would never get to be with him. But she could see that he was in pain as well, as she didn't want to prolong his suffering, as she hugged him though. The both of them shared a one last peaceful kiss. As Naruto came out, as Tsunade was there, the both of them talked. Tsunade was getting mixed signal here, as now she saw him as a completely different person. Nice, kind, caring. It was weird. He was unlike any Uchiha that she's ever met before. Now that she wasn't focusing on him being a King Slayer, she called him by his name and told him that he should call her by hers, which he did. After that, they got ready. As they mustered up the armies, Naruto put the fear of coming to them. As he told them to get ready, as they were going to fight for their lands, they weren't going to be controlled by some merchant. As Natty saw the fire in your man ignite, as he turned yourself towards the city, to stop it, to stop the daimyo once and for all. Hoshirama was the one that made his way with the daimyo. He gave Naruto control, partial control of his army, with Snatty, so that he wouldn't know that he was up to something, giving him trust. Hoshirama did not want the Uchihas to kill the daimyo's family, just to subdue them. That is why he went alone with the Senju guards. So yeah guys, that was basically that's where the thought you guys can switch across the place to cover yourself. So what do you say begin this new episode? Tsunade and their clansmen alike never thought in their wildest dreams that they would be coming, that they would fight alongside the Uchihas. But that day was here, as they marched, 3,000 strong, rushed towards the city. Whatever she might think of the Uchiha, she could not deny the fact that their roars were powerful. As the dragons they claimed to descend from, it was enough to make the royal defenders flinch as they formed a defensive line. Her sharp eyes saw the dozen ninja in the front, followed by Heavy, personnel in the center, and the skilled archer at the back. As she looked to her left and right, as she saw many of the ninjas were rushing forward, but the daimyo had placed his soldiers. It was like he trained them for something like this. As he hopped on the wall over to the side of the archers, she then glanced as she saw him with his golden armor donned as he was on top of Kurama. He was far ahead of the army, with his king guard members right beside him on their horses. A hail of burning arrows came down on them. Snatty saw the seals and the arrows they remained to pierce armors. The fox then looked up as he roared. All of those arrows were blown away and destroyed. The ninja defenders at the front started to go through hand signs as the fox roared towards them. Snatty's eyes went wide when she saw 3 to 4 dozen men were sent sailing away just by a single roar from the beast. In the meantime, Naruto and his squad finished their hand signs. Fire style. Fire flame missile, he said. All 6 of them launched fire missiles from their mouth that slammed into the enemy ranks like a volley. The attack was completely focused, that's Snatty noticed. None of the surrounding buildings caught fire, only the enemies were hit. The royal army was now left wide open as the king's guard moved. Snatty watched as 9 long tails emerged on the fox, shattering the force like they were nothing but flies. By now the allied forces had reached the battlefield as they started to clash valiantly with the daimyo force. Snatty pulled back her fist as she drove it in a ninja's stomach that was cocky enough to attack her. The man was sent sailing as he crashed into the wall. She turned towards another, she slammed her chakra-enhanced fist through his blade. The man's eyes went wide when his blade was shattered as her fist ripped his chest apart as he was sent halfway across the city as he splattered to hundreds of tiny pieces. A nasty grin came on her face as she watched. The ninjas shiver as they watched one of the mercenaries of the daimyos got turned into platter on the wall. Even the Uchihas and their allies gulped at the sheer power that she had behind those fists of hers. She then saw 3 large armies made up of thousands of soldiers descended upon them from each side. They were trying to box us in. Inma, she yelled. Her brother had just finished burying his sword in one of the enemy's neck as he turned towards her voice. Seeing what she was pointing on, he grimaced as she watches her shy and reserved brother steel himself as he got ready. While it was true that she was second in command of this army, she wanted her brother to regain his confidence. After his defeat against Naruto, his reputation had taken a severe beating, and this was his chance to get his honor back in the clan. But seeing Naruto charge as ignite the fire back in his eyes. Senjus! With me, he yelled. Despite his past defeats, the Senjus did not hesitate to join him as he moved toward the town square. As Snadil turned to gauge the situation, she was surprised to see that Naruto, along with his 100 Uchihas and some Chimuras, had annihilated half of the enemy front as the king's guard moved and cut down anyone that came near them with their blades. Her gaze shifted towards a man that she was supposed to marry. She realized that his fighting powers were not false, as Naruto was not on the fox anymore. The beast had moved forward to wreak havoc and destruction, as Naruto was channeling wind chakra through dawn and cutting down dozens of ninja in one strike. He was like the angel of death with that blade, moving so swiftly on his feet. It was like he was dancing, grazing through them like they were absolutely nothing towards him. Any of them that tried to attack him from their blind spot, they got sliced to pieces by Shisui and Itachi. She saw that two armies were still charging towards her. Her brother had went to handle the third one. She had roughly 1,000 with her. Kenji, she said, one of her old bodyguards, stepped beside her. This man had been there for her when she was a baby, and now he was still here fighting for her. Take 800 of our forces and stop the ninjas that are approaching from the merchant district. There could be ninjas amongst them, she said. Yes, princess. But what about the other forces? Wouldn't you be outnumbered? I can easily see 2,000 amongst them. And you just have 200 left on your side if I take 800. And those are Namikaze fighters who are sore loyalty to the Uchiha. Like Naruto said, we need to work together. And I have a plan, she said. Now go. As Kenji bowed respectfully, before he took the man with him. The rest of you, come with me, said Tsunade, as she made her way off with the 200. As the Namikaze members went with her, as they could see the Senjus fighting with Naruto. So, they really were going to work together. Tsunade flashed through hand signs. Summoning jutsu, she said. The enemy army stopped when a massive slug appeared in front of them. Tsunade stood on top of the giant slug. Shields up, the royal commander yelled. Katsuyu, said Tsunade. Fire! The slug took a deep breath before releasing acid from its mouth. A few of the enemy ninjas broke rank and went through one sign. Earth stab. Earth wall! Tsunade snarled as Katsuya started to fire more liquid of acid. But as soon as she broke through one of the earth wall, another was there. They were trying to tire her out. As she glanced back, she watched Ming Namikaze maintain a safe distance from the acid rain. But they were throwing explosive tags. But it was having less effects than Katsuyu's slime. As she told Katsuya to stop, and she waited for the enemy to take the bait. But they did not. Layers of earth wall were still standing strong despite Tsunade's best efforts. Once her forces were tired, the 2,000 warriors would move forward along with the ninjas and slaughter her and her soldiers. As Tsunade leaped off her slug and flipped in the air, she brought her leg down that was coated in chakra. Blam! She slammed it right in the center. As she broke it to pieces, she attacked it furiously, creating a large hole in their defense. Katsuyu, she shouted, breach! The slug simply nodded and released several smaller versions of herself. As Tsunade caught them and placed them in the broken defense as they start to release acid. Even if the enemies could create more and more walls to protect themselves, the temperature inside would increase rapidly. It wouldn't be long before they would be forced to break out or die from the heat. Tsunade jumped from the wall and landed back on her slug as she commanded for her forces to take the nearby roofs. When they were all clear, she rushed through hand signs, Earth style, Star Crater. The entire ground started to sink lower and lower as thousands of royal members screamed in panic. As Tsunade saw her troops took up position amongst the rooftop as he looked at the sinking ground. Katsuya, she shouted, flood them now. The slug released a welch of acid from its mouth and flooded the sinking ground. As the enemy started to crack the walls because the heat was now unbearable, they were about to be cooked alive from the smaller Katsuya that was releasing acid in their walls. Thousands of panicked soldiers rushed out to save themselves. To their horror, they were now standing in a massive crater that was filled with acid, and the rooftops were filled with nothing but Namikaze shinobis. Tsunade steeled herself. Fire, she shouted. Hundreds of kunais and shurikens were launched towards the royalists. The soldiers had yet to spit up properly, and they were struck down repeatedly. That was not enough. Katsuya's attack was a dead blow, as Katsuya released quantities upon quantities of acid on the trapped soldiers that couldn't go anywhere. They screamed in horror and pain as their skin started to melt before their very eyes. The ones that tried to run were massacred by the Namikazes. Long and painful minutes passed as Tsunade watched. The army was massacred in front of her eyes. To their credit, the loyalists, they fight to the last man. Even while trapped, they tried to get out. They struggled, they raged, but they could not. Many would say their actions was foolish, but Tsunade knew that they were dying for someone that they believed in, as most of them were now dissolving slowly as the acid had completely swallowed the crater. The stench was horrible. Her eyes widened when a last group of soldiers charged towards her. He was being led by one of their commanders. The officer had third-degree burns all over him. His chest was marred by kunais, and yet he had murder in his eyes. The Namikaze soldiers released another volley of kunais as the loyalists jumped in front of their commander and took the blows as they collapsed right in the acid, protecting their commander. Tsunade's eyes widened as the enemy commander was trying to crawl out of the crater. His legs were gone because of the acid, but his eyes were still glaring at her. The roar that the man unleashed, it paralyzed her, as the man was still going as he threw the spear that he had in his arm right towards her chest. Her eyes widened as she evaded the weapon, but then she realized it wasn't for her. As it exploded right beside Katsuya's left eye, the creature screamed as the explosion released fire that consumed half of his face. Screaming in agony, it vanished in a poof. Much as that is horror, her murderous eye turned towards a man who was grinning at her. He had now sunk into his knees in the acid river. His body was coated in kunais and shurikens. Long live the daimyo, he said, as he released his jacket that had dozens of explosions. It shook the entire capital. As many namikaze fell, losing their balance, as they fell right into the acid river. Victory was theirs, but the enemy did not go down without a fight. Meanwhile, Inma, Senju was facing off against the royal forces. Instead of facing them openly, they decided to run back towards the capital, which was rather strange. That didn't make any sense, given the fact that they wanted to protect the daimyo. Why would they run back to their home, knowing that their daimyo could get killed? He and his soldiers had no choice but to follow, as he didn't want them to risk to set another ambush. Looking towards the daimyo's castle, he wondered about the safety of his brother. Hushram was the strongest fighter he ever saw, and he had 500 soldiers with him. Still, he was worried about his brother. He wished that they had some Yamanakas to learn if his brother was safe. The royal army didn't finally reach the gates, as they adopted a formation. Looking closely, he realized it was a thin barrier that would stop any jutsu that was launched from his army from a long distance. The daimyo had went through great lengths to make sure his forces and his army, its capital, was not attacked by shinobis from the outside. As Inma looked towards his forces, he had around 1,800 men. The rest were with Naruto and his sister. As the royal army had the same amount, but he didn't know what this feeling was. He felt like something was wrong. He cursed out loud as 100 hot-headed Inusakas charged without any warning. He yelled for them to come back, but it was too late as dozens of archers appeared in the walls. It was a trap. The Inusakas realized their mistake too late, as they were shredded with thousands of arrows. The royal army cheered as all of the Inusaka and their dogs were butchered within minutes. Two of the other gates of the castle opened up, and Inma stiffened. Hundreds of samurais came out, veteran samurais that were trained to fight against shinobis. From the western gate, 2 army of platoons with massive war elephants with dozens of archers on top of them. That was not enough though. From behind them, there was hundreds of civilians. They had weapons, axes, anything they could find. Defenders of the city was out for the blood of the people that threatened their rule. The shinobi force buckled as volley after volley of endless kunais started raining down on them with arrows. Inama cursed as he looked up to see a Nara commander looking down at him calmly. The Naras were said to be the best strategists in the entire Fire Nation, and they were loyal to the Fire Daimyo, and they were now repeating that loyalty to the Daimyo by giving out back strategy and formulating a plan. "We got no chance," several of Inama's soldiers yelled. Inama had to think fast. If they were killed here, it didn't matter how strong Tsunade or Naruto was, they would be butchered by the entire forces. As he looked towards the charging elephants, they did not care if they crushed houses or step on anyone that got in their way. Anyone tried to stop them, their tusks ripped through them like knife through butter. His army was falling rather quickly and none of his family members were here to save them. It was just him. He looked towards his fighters. He couldn't let them down. "To me!" he shouted. Despite the dire situation, hundreds of Senjus rallied around him, with the Sarutobis and a few Inusakas left. The few Uchihas didn't want to follow him anymore, but seeing that there was, well, little to no chance, they did anyway. "Uchihas, use fire to break the charge," he yelled. "Inusakas, you will charge me towards the gate," drawing the attention of the archers away from the Uchihas. Senjus and Sarutobis blocked the elephants with earth and water attacks as he unleashed his sword. "Move!" he shouted. As Inma shot forward, the Inusakas roared as they followed his lead. He flashed through hand signs, lightning release. "Lightning stinger," he said. He released massive volt of electricity from his fingers, but he was not alone. Getsuga, the Inusakas and their dogs started to spin like drills as they broke through the barrier. As he jumped into the fray and started to clash with the royal army, he released a kunai that multiplied into several, and he did this repeatedly as he struck down archers off the wall. As he flashed through Hansen and slammed his hand down, he released an electric pulse that stunned many of the royal guards. The Inusakas tear through them as they spin, claws and fangs ripping through them without mercy. Fire style, fire flame wall. All of the Uchihas released a wall of fire that did not hesitate to turn everyone to crisps. All of the royal army in front of them was burned away into dust. Inuma cursed though as he saw, despite the Senjus and Sarutobi trying to slow the elephants down. They were war elephants as they prevailed. They stomped through the water and broke through the earth. The beast did not care that it was getting pierced or anything. It was then that Inuma noticed a shadow. As he saw, it was Nara controlling the beast. That is why it didn't care about self-preservation as it crushed and destroyed everything within its path. Inuma created 10 earth clones. In front of his eyes, hundreds of his warriors were dying off. They had followed him into battle. It was his responsibility to lead them to victory. As he flashed in front of the elephant with his clones, all of them had spears. The Naras sent them towards him to trump them. Steady, he said as the elephants came rushing forward. Hold! Take down the riders! The moment he gave his command, he threw the chakra in half spear towards the Nara. The Nara quickly moved, but he lost control as the elephant crashed into the other one on his right. It was like a tidal wave was released. One after another they crashed into each other as they crashed down to the ground. As Inma clones threw their chakra spears, tearing through Naras alike. Inma was not done as he pulled his blade, as his remaining forces did the same as they charged forward. By the time they finished off the elephants and their riders, Inma found another problem. He saw the Nara commander personally arrive outside. With Shadow Binding, he took over the bodies of 10 Uchihas and 8 Inazakas along with their dogs. He was making them attack their own forces, creating more confusion and chaos. Let's kill the bastard fast, one of the Senju said. As Inuma moved, the Nara commander sent everyone straight towards Inuma. The moment they got close enough, Inuma released non-vital bolts from his hands, enough to shock their brain into unconsciousness. The Nara commander snarled as he watched his pawns fell unconscious. As Inuma knew that the man wanted him to stay far away so that he can use his shadow binding technique, he couldn't allow that as he moved. The man then snapped his head to the right, but it was too late as a dog came in and ripped his head clean off. As the royal forces watched as their commander was brutally ripped apart. If that was not enough to break their morale, they then heard it, the war cry of the Uchihas. Fire and blood! Thousands of bloodthirsty warriors were marching towards the capital. As the royal army started to panic, because Madara Uchiha was coming, along with the entire Uchiha army. Meanwhile, Tajima watched as his son was surrounded by the clan heads, as the people had chosen him as their Hokage, and this was his son's time to shine. They were all stunned when they received messages from Naruto, saying that the conflict was imminent as a daimyo would want to take him hostage if they refused, as Madara was marching the army towards the capital. And it was a mistake. Tajima glanced towards their army. Most of their fighters are already tired from running for 2 hours straight. The journey should take at least 8 hours, but Madara had them running extremely fast. The veteran soldiers were still able to fight, but the younger ones looked like they were about to drop dead. No, they had to attack the city with this force that was weakened, but Tajima knew that he could not intervene. This was a chance for Madara to learn how to lead. He wished Madara would show some restraint in the future though. While it was true that Naruto was in danger, he was not alone. He had 500 loyal men with him. But Madara did not listen. His love for his brother override his senses. But he could not blame the boy, because he would be doing the same thing if Naruto was in Naruto's position. Command any fighter in our army that has an aerial summon to call for their beasts. We shall send a small force to open the gates. Shin Abermi nodded as he made his way. Have the Kurama Funjutsu master start to work on the seals that prevent our ninjas from scaling the walls. If it doesn't work, we'll tear the bloody walls apart, said Madara. Hokage-sama, why is there no defenders trying to stop us? Said Arya and Kamikaze. Madara activated Sharingan and it was strange. There was no one there guarding the walls. Something was wrong. As he closed his eyes, he then heard it. He clenched his fists. They're already attacking my brother, he said. He turned. Tear these bloody walls apart and get me a damn bird. I'm going in, he said. Madara, Tajima said. Don't be hasty. Naruto can take care of himself for a while, and you need to lead this army through the siege. Break the gates or scale the walls, whatever you do. Don't abandon your forces. He carefully chose his words though, to not diminish the authority of his son in front of their allies. The siege will take too long to break. How can I leave my brother out there to die, said Madara. Your love for your brother will be the end of you someday. Tajima wanted to say those words, because Madara was making a cruel mistake in just running in like this. But he had to convince Madara how to act like a leader, and not like a warrior elder brother. It is not going to be a siege, Hokage-sama, said Arya and Namikaze. Madara and Tajima turned, wondering what she was talking about as they turned. When they saw it, the flag of a deer. Thousands of clan wars, and everyone had tried to gain negotiations by threat, bribe, or force to get this clan to join them. And then things became worse when this clan swore their loyalty to the daimyo, and no one could touch them. They were not the strongest fighters, but they had the power that not even Tajima could dismiss. As Tajima clenched his fist when he saw dead Nara at the head of these fighters marching towards them, at least 5,000 samurais, 3,000 archers, and another 6,000 or so mixed fighters, including 4,000 Naras as well, also moving towards the battlefield. It was a trap and they all fell for it. As Tajima realized, the daimyo offer slavery to them, but if they refuse, he would cut all of them down. The entire royal army was being led by the Nara clan that now surrounded their enemies. As Neri watched the 30,000 plus coming after their 10,000 that was tired, summoning creatures that Nara had, the nasty tricks, and not to mention the forces in the capital was threatened from behind. The Uchiha army was no trap. Madara faces blank as the supporters looked towards him for order. But then to everyone's surprise, Madara smirked. Madara pulled his gun bay and his sword at the same time. All of them that love him pulled their weapons as well. The allies, all of them. She looked towards Tajima for him to stop this madness because despite everything the numbers are just too much. But then she realized they already rebel against daimyo. If they surrender right now, their fate would be worse than death. And it didn't look like they could help Naruto at this time, as she started to panic and worry about him. Let's show these weaklings how to dance, said Madara, his bloodlust taking over. While the Uchihas knew the joke and laughed, their allies looked towards a massive 30,000 plus that were gonna slaughter them all. But then, all of it was stopped when an explosion smashed into the ground with so much force, it shook from here all the way to the capital. As Madara and Tajima turned after, making sure they were secured to the ground, the entire wall of the capital was completely turned into dust. The enemy force saw, as the smoke cleared away, they started to step back, including Nara's, to what they saw. A mighty roar then shook the landscape, a roar that has not been heard in thousands of years. Neri shivered in fright as she saw those red demonic eyes. Kurama had grown through his original size that made everyone look like just ants. His massive 9 tails could swipe away the castle with just one single swing. I don't believe it. All this time, said Tajima, as standing on top of Kurama's head was none other than the man himself. Abiju, said Neri in fear, as she looked towards her nephew that stood there. On top of the Biju's head, Naruto, said Madara. All of them were shocked when they saw Naruto stand on top of the beast's head, as its eyes set towards the army coldly. As Naruto pointed his blade towards Den Nara, Den was quiet. No words were said, but the message was clear. Despite what was coming towards them, Den Nara picked up a nearby blade and got to his feet. As he pointed at Naruto, the Naras could not give up. They had defied the Senjus and the Uchiha clan, especially the Uchiha, for years now. If they lose the daimyo, they would no longer have their protection of the army, and they would no longer have the protection, and things would not go in their favor at all. They had no choice but to fight. As for the rest of the army, they had no idea how the hell they were going to defeat Abiju. Their eyes was filled with nothing but absolute fear. Still, their commander was going to fight and it was an obligation of them to follow him. Despite everything, the 5,000 strong was the first. As Naruto spoke, Kurama, the beast growled, charged, said Naruto. The 5,000 was told to move, to try and slow Kurama down. Hundreds of them tried to take out Kurama's legs first, but they were nothing but ants facing a mountain. Kurama raised his tail and dropped it. 3 tails was enough to wipe out all the force that were trying to slash him. Hundreds of Nara attached their shadow binding techniques over Kurama's legs. Now it ends, said Naruto. Kurama opened his mouth, while their shadows, thousands, 4,000 Naras, could chop his legs. For now, they could not chop his mouth. As Kurama started to create a Biju bomb, the mercenary army started to run for their life immediately. And so did many of the civilian fighters. They lost what courage they had, seeing the monstrosity that the beast was about to release on them. Even if they couldn't feel chakra, they could see what the beast was about to unleash. But then Naruto placed a hand on Kurama's head, No words were spoken, but the Bijou bomb shattered. The fox sighed and nodded in resignation as Naruto jumped off his head. The remaining samurais flinched away in fear as they were afraid. As Tajima scowled at Naruto's actions. "Honorable fool," Tajima said, as he moved to save Naruto from getting slaughtered as he was walking straight towards Denara and his army. "Don't," said Neri. "He will get himself killed," Tajima said, as Madara also led the charge to protect his brother as well. But Neri saw something. "Naruto, you have grown up," she said. He knew what he's doing, as that made all of them stand down. But Madara was still ready just in case. Both powerful armies as the Nara commander and the Uchiha stand before each other. "Quite a beast you got there," said Dan. Without any sarcasm, the man was just stating a fact. "That I have," said Naruto. "Why are you here?" "Look at your man," said Naruto. The Nara looked at the rest of his forces. Most of them had fled in fear, and these ones that remained had nothing but fright. Some of them even wet themselves in panic. "I don't want to slaughter your people needlessly," said Naruto. "You know I have no choice but to fight," said Dan. "What if you don't have to?" said Naruto. Dan blinked as he was confused. There was no treachery or deceit in Naruto's eyes. "Neither Uchihas or Senju would spare us if the daimyo is overthrown. My people weren't exactly clan lapdogs. We value our clan independence, and we still value it now. Besides, your father and Tobirama Senju are not people that show mercy to those that defy them. Then retain your independence." That was not what Dan was expecting. "Serve neither Uchihas or Senjus, but whoever is chosen to be the next ruler of Land of Fire. Bend the knee and your soldiers, your clan live. Your people live," Naruto promised. Dan glanced towards Tajima, who had nothing but murder in his eyes. "We all know what your father did to Kento, Senju's family," said Dan worriedly. "I am not that man," said Naruto. Dan did not look back this time. This time he looked towards Naruto, as Dan then turned towards the fox, who nodded. It accepted the boy's offer. Whatever Tobirama or Tajima was capable of, the fox was vastly more powerful than them all combined. He looked towards his soldiers. Most of them nodded, as he turned back to Naruto with a resigned smile on his face. "I never thought I would see a Uchiha with honor," he said. Naruto extended his hand. "Let us end this senseless bloodshed," he said. The man raised his own hand and joined with Naruto. "Then under these terms I surrender," said Dan loudly, for every soldier to hear. Madara and Tajima watched in shock as all soldiers threw down their weapons. As Kurama smiled as Naruto walked back to his family. Neri looked towards Naruto and smiled. She wanted to hug him tight. It was one thing to slaughter an enemy when they could not win, but to offer them a chance to surrender, peace. It was a double-edged sword. She believed that this one thing that he did was going to change the world, and she knew it. But only the future will tell them. She watched as Naruto was looking at Madara, all the clan heads and Tajima in their eyes. The daimyo has been captured. The city has fallen. The royal army has surrendered. "We have won," said Naruto. Everyone was shocked on hearing those words. They came here for a fight, but it was over. Many glanced towards the fox, but it was not the fox, because he would have reduced the city to dust. That meant Naruto took it by force. But that didn't make sense. He only had 5,000. It didn't make sense. Tajima then thought, "No, it can't be," Tajima thought. "You have a lot of explaining to do, boy," said Tajima. "Yes, father," said Naruto, as the man was angry, because he was really hoping that Naruto was not. He did not do what he was currently thinking at this moment, because there was no way that Naruto would capture the city with just 500 strong, as Neri had to intervene, as she could tell that Naruto did something bad, and Tajima would snap. "We shall talk, but not here," she said, as she looked towards the clan heads and her family. Madara agreed, but his eyes were strangely on the fox, as Neri noticed that most of the other clan members were looking at the fox as well, but it wasn't like they could grab him. He would turn them into dust. Tajima gave a nod, but his eyes were focused on his son, as he really hoped that his son did not do what he was thinking. Time skip. "You took it upon yourself to ally us with our sworn enemies." Tajima was pissed. No, he was livid. He was outright mad, as he looked towards his youngest son with nothing but rage. Naruto held his ground despite the various glares he received from the clan heads and his father and brother. Even Neri was taken aback by his choice. The only one that stood by his side was the fox, that reduced itself to a small wolf. Much to everyone's amazement, when their force had marched to the city, they saw the carnage they went through and the dead that was in the street. Still, there was only 800 dead to the 8,500 royal guards and 400 civilians of the capital. The daimyo was taken prisoner. His 3 sons died trying to defend the royal capital despite Hoshima's best effort. Most of us expect Tajima to just attack the weekend Senjus, but it was Kurama who gave him a pointed stare and made him have to listen. Still, the capital was tense, but they had the responsibility of watching over the Nara clan, and not to mention Kurama's presence was a big deterrent in this because he didn't want to harm the Senjus, it seems, and he didn't want to harm the Uchihas either. But that didn't matter to Tajima and his supporters. What they saw was a foolish boy who agreed to marry a Senju and take away their right to their vengeance. It didn't matter that most of the Uchihas would be dead, along with most of their allied people, by the time the last Senju was slaughtered. Even Madara was in agreement with his father. That did not bode well for Naruto. "I did what I thought was right," said Naruto. "I can't have you beheaded for this," said Tajima coldly. As Naruto eyes narrowed towards his father was many things but never once had he made such a threat. Not just him but everyone was shocked. "Father, show too much kindness and your enemies will wake up one day and slit your throat," said Tajima. "Father is right, Naruto. The Senjus are weak right now. Together, with our army and the fox, we can defeat them," said Madara. Kurama snorted in disgust as Madara narrowed his eyes towards his brother, who did not rebuke the beast. "They killed our brother, Naruto," said Madara sadly. The face of 3 brothers flashed into his eyes. But then, the face of Shizuka flashed into his eyes, with her stomach large. 2 kids that have yet to see in the world. You will have 3 points in your life when your decision can change the world. You remember her words. "I'm tired of fighting," said Naruto. They did not dare to say anything as Naruto's eyes became murderous towards them. "That's all I've done since I came in this world. I have killed men and women. I have burned clan heads alive. I have given order that lead to the slaughter of entire clans, including children." "You're no son of mine," Tajima whispered in disbelief, not knowing how much it hurt him. "I am your son, father. I am more like you than any of your other children. That is why I know the best course of action for our people is peace. If not for ourselves, then for our children," said Naruto. Madara got up as Kurama narrowed his eyes towards him. But Madara ignored the fox as he grabbed Naruto by his collar of his shirt, as Madara was furious. "Give me one reason I shouldn't kill you right now. Tell me why you're doing this, because I know that you desire revenge, more than even me, for what they did to our brothers. For what they did to Izuna," as Madara Sharingan activated and spun wildly. Naruto knew that Madara would not kill him, but his brother would not love him anymore if he took away everything from him without giving him a good damn reason. He closed his eyes as he leaned closer to his brother's ear. "You're gonna be an uncle, brother," he whispered. As Madara stepped back in shock, Naruto kept a lot of secret from him all these years. The most dangerous is that he had a Biju following the entire time, but this one was more big. But he did explain why he wanted to make peace with the Senjus. "You're not lying to me," said Madara. "No," Naruto whispered. Kurama was surprised that Naruto revealed that secret to him. Kurama never trusted Madara. He thirsts for power, nothing more, nothing else. While Naruto reminded Kurama of Indra when he was a boy, Madara reminded of Indra when he became that bloodthirsty man in the future that wanted power and absolute control. But still, for Naruto's sake, he tolerated Madara. But if they tried anything, he would turn them into dust. Kurama had saw how much Naruto sacrificed for this peace, and for them to spit on it like that, it made him furious. "Our people chose me as Hokage, brother. Do you think the Senjus will still want peace when they learn of this? Would they still want peace when the Uchihas don't give them leadership over the Land of Fire?" "Because father will die before he lets that happen," said Madara seriously. "I will find a way. You promised me that it will always be me and you against the entire world. I remain loyal to this family and our clan. Even after what happened at night, I have fought for you my entire life. But now I need you to fight for me again," said Naruto, his eyes becoming moist, as Madara remembered his promise. But this was going against everything that he believed. To Naruto's shock, Madara walked away, as Naruto's shoulders slumped in defeat. "You're all fools." Kurama stepped forward as he spoke. Everyone froze in shock, near, and Tajima couldn't believe it. The beast could speak normal tongue. As Kurama see Naruto urged him not to reveal his true power, and it made him even more grateful to the boy, even on the brink of his family, looking at him with nothing but disdain. He still wanted to keep his identity from his people. After all, Kurama was the one to offer his help to crush the royal army, while Naruto wanted to find another way. You kept your promise, Naruto Uchiha. Now it's time I keep mine. What are you? Said Tajima. As the beast stepped forward and looked Tajima dear in the eyes. Contrary to what you believe, I am not a mindless beast. I was created by the Sage of Six Paths. I was there when your ancestor was born, Indra. I was there when he waged war against his brother. Till this day. And if you think for 1 second that I will butcher Senjus, or allow you to butcher them, then you're all morons, Kurama said. What? Said Tajima. I don't fight for the Senjus or the Uchihas. I'm loyal to my only friend that saw me as a person and not a weapon. He remained loyal to me for all these years, and in turn, I will remain loyal to him as well. You all have lost a lot to this war, but so have the Senjus as well. The only thing that will end up coming out of both clans fighting is the end of both of your existence. I will not stop until those bastards kneel in front of me and take their life for what they did to my family, Tajima yelled. Kurama restrained himself from ripping Tajima to pieces. So blinded by hate, he was unable to see the betterment of this choice. Enough. As Neri walked forward and stood beside her brother. What do you want, Fox? She said calmly. At least hear what the Senjus have to say. Try to make peace, as your father did, said Kurama. How? I told you, Kurama said, cutting him off. I've been in this world for a very long time. Your father was a good man, one of the finest Uchiha leaders I ever saw in history. What happened to him was wrong, and you made the Senjus pay for that dearly. But if you continue this war, your children will suffer just like you have. And so with their children after them, said Kurama honestly, as Neri looked towards Naruto. Him and Madara had lost their 3 siblings right in front of their eyes, just like them when they had went to that peace meeting. Very well, we'll hear what the Senjus have to say. Sister! Tajima said in anger as he looked towards her. But she ignored his gaze as she focused on the fox. If we don't find your terms satisfactory, then war continue, with or without your help, she said. That's all I can ask, said Kurama, as he made his way back towards Naruto. As Neri commanded the rest of them to leave. As Naruto left with Kurama, she then turned to her brother. We need to talk, she said. But guys, if you can subscribe right here. If you want the next part to do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on the bell notifications I posted. But I'm off for now, see you guys soon. Peace.